But tonight is hosted by Stand With Crypto. You see the signs? We have a Washington State chapter. I'm the designated president for whatever that means, but really at the end of the day, we are Stand With Crypto because I am not necessarily Stand With Crypto. I'm only enabled by you. But we do have an opportunity to stand up a chapter that's more active, and so we'd like to do that in 2026, and also co-hosted here with Mike Hanson. He's been doing a lot of Stand With Crypto activities in the south end of Washington and also Portland. Do you want to say a few words?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for all coming out. I'm so glad to see all of you here and all the curiosity, all the people that are working in the blockchain space or within the crypto space. I'm so happy to see all of you, and it's really going to be an exciting 2026. So I look forward to that and doing the best I can out in Vancouver, Washington, Portland, Oregon area, but also up here in Seattle too, for sure. All
right, and then the other co-host, Jonathan Blanco, he and I have been here around for like 10 years. You should say a few words.
Yeah, no, thank you everybody for being here at our NIFMIT and TF Labs offices here in Seattle. We've been doing events in the blockchain space for almost 10 years, since 2017. So I guess 8 years. And, Ari and I are actually just talking about this a moment ago about wanting to start making sure the cadence goes up again, because there was a time where we were doing a monthly, and, it just gets hard doing it individually. And so with our powers combined, we want to start doing it once a month again. So in order for that to happen, we need all of your help and support. A lot of people here I've seen for a number of years, and I thank you for supporting us. And then there's a lot of people here that I'm seeing for the first time. So welcome to this. And my ask is that when we do this again, bring one person, just one additional person with you, and we'll get things going again. So
awesome.
Yeah.
I wear many hats, as many of you know, but I've also been taking a break from work since March of this year. But still very active. I can't help myself. My poor husband over there. Policy side, just wanted to give you a quick update. So one of the gigs that I have, very small gig, is with the WTI, Washington Technology Industry Association. So WTI just hired their Director of Policy and Government Affairs, and crypto and digital asset policy is one of the top priorities. Yay! It's going to be a very short session as we go into January. Very short session. Legislators are very focused on homelessness and, general things like that. They're very, very, top of mind for a lot of folks in our community. But we also have innovation to be worried about. We have to make sure that they're not unfairly singling out digital assets or crypto kiosks or, blockchain. And so that is a increased concern now. We did work as Cascadia Blockchain. Oh, no! I bought these recently, and I don't know how to turn it off yet. It started talking to me. But now I can't see. So as Cascadia Blockchain Council, we worked very furiously to build a relationship with the DFI. It's like the SEC of Washington State, Department of Financial Institutions. And they were kind of hostile, I think, especially in 2016, 17, 18, 19, and kind of just a little bit. And it took a while for them to kind of see this community as the clients. They were seeing us as the enemy, and it took us a while to convince them, no, we're your constituents. We're your community. You're here to serve us. And we also want to keep out the bad guys, and we want to protect consumers, but also we want to innovate and build and make Washington a great place to build and invest and grow communities and companies. And they're like, oh. So they started having office hours. They built the Center for FinTech Information, this website with all of their information listed, and things were really going great. But then we had the pandemic, and funding got lost, and we also had a 40% turnover in the Washington state legislature over the past couple of years. And so We're here at square zero again in a lot of ways. As we've seen in the recent news, I think Koimi, I can't say this publicly, but I am saying kind of publicly, I think Koimi was a little bit singled out recently. And so, we'd like to just begin conversations again and help educate policymakers. We have to kind of give them a tech 101, not just on blockchain and crypto, but just all of technology and building those relationships. And so we'll need the community's help, when we have letters that we're sending, or when we're doing lobby days or demo days, or we're renting shuttle buses and going down to Olympia. I would love to be able to reach out to this community and have people sign up, especially if you're a small entrepreneur leading a company. Those are the folks that we want to put in front of our regulators and legislators and policymaker staffs. Like, we're real people, and we're not all evil people, super coders, wearing dark hoodies, doing nefarious activities, right? Right, okay? So let's bring real people doing real things. And that's also one of the things that we're trying to do with Stand With Crypto, is make it a grassroots movement. Let's bring everyone out. We can hold our heads high, stretch out our necks and backs. There's no shame. Let's be prideful. And is that the right word, prideful? Proud. Proud, and showcase what we're doing here in the community. We have so much talent, so many skills, so many great stories. And what we need to do better as the Pacific Northwest is tell those stories. We can use Stand With Crypto as a platform. So if you have stories or you're doing a launch, where's Daniel? Daniel. Oh, there. Sorry, I don't have my glasses anymore. We have so many great stories of folks that are doing great work. And so let's use Stand With Crypto as your platform to amplify those stories across the United States. And let's work together. All right, getting off my soapbox and coming for the panelists, please come on up. Scott, we have Jonathan, of course, and Mike.
So real quick before we get started, that was not a very good welcome to the panelists, and I'm slightly offended. So I'm gonna cut this part out. There we go. That's a lot better. It's a lot better. Thank you. Appreciate it. And our panelists appreciate it as well.
Thanks, buddy.
Maybe even louder next time.
So let's begin with your long-form introduction of yourself. What is your background? How did you get into crypto? And what are you doing now? And please take, at least 2-3 minutes talking about yourself and sharing some of your highlights of how you got to here today. And we'll begin with Mike Hanson.
Thank you. Love to talk about myself. This will be great.
You have a really good story.
Do I?
Yes, really good story.
All right. Well, I own a local moving company and have for about 13 years. I own SeattleOfficeMoving.com. I own SeattleSelectMoving.com. We move offices and households. It's a lot of fun. That's a really easy business to scale. It's like when you work, you get paid. That's it. So cash flow is always coming in. So I really like revenue. So what I did last summer or 2 summers ago, I wanted another truck. I didn't want to use credit or cash. So I created a token. And so I created a token, sold it.
What's the token called?
It's called Trucked.
Trucked?
Trucked. Yeah, or TCT.
Sounds like a drug.
Yeah. And so I took all the money, bought a truck, and then I put a GPS unit in it. And so we take the APIs from the GPS unit to trigger transactions. And so what the truck does is it pays out fair market rental rate of a moving truck. If you were to go rent a U-Haul on a weekend, it would charge you $1.20 a mile. So the truck, as it drives, pays out $1.20 a mile to about 113 people. And it just ends up in their wallet. My job is I got to keep that rewards wallet full. So if that truck is moving, people are earning, right? If the wheels are turning, you're earning, is kind of what we say. And so if the truck's moving, I'm making money, and it's plenty of money to cover the cost of the truck. But it's way better than renting a truck or leasing a truck. A group of people own it, and a group of people passively earn from it with real revenues in the real world. And so, yeah,
Who are the group of people? How did you find them?
Well, I'm kind of loud on Twitter. So when I'm on Twitter, I make noise and people know me. So if I'm into your token, then.
What's your Twitter handle?
Oh, I'm not on it now. I'm off Twitter now. We have a trucked page and everything, but sometimes I say things I shouldn't, have to disappear for a while. But I launched it on Clever, which nobody here's heard of. But it was really easy. I used that because you don't need to program. It's just plug and play. Like I just put the coin out there and put it on their launch pad for like $25. And we had a truck in like 2 weeks. I mean, the whole thing took about 2 weeks. And what I did first was I put it in a truck that I already owned free and clear to like test the business model and not only that, I hooked the rewards up too. So before anybody bought the token, there was already money going out. So I didn't want to sell a token unless I was already generating revenue, because everybody else in the space, especially in like 2017, the ICO, here's our big idea. Everybody buy a token, right? And then we're gonna build this thing. So I like to build it before I sell it, have some money coming in before you start taking money from people.
So how long have you been in business using this token? This isn't just an idea that you've done in the past 3 months, right?
No, this has been going for, I don't know, about a year and a half.
Year and a half, 18 months.
Yeah, yep.
Wow.
And since then, we've built a platform for anybody to do what I did. And then we built an exchange that only trades revenue generating vehicles. So future use case is obviously the robo-taxi, right? It's like you guys all might have 50 grand to go buy an Uber and have it go drive for you. But this is a way where people can, all get together, buy one and share in the profits. And we do this all through the GPS. So the GPS does a lot of things. It also pays tolls. So it gets rid of all the tolling infrastructure.
What?
So it knows where you are on the road. So it knows you're on the toll road. So it charges your GPS unit.
What?
Yeah. And so we're waiting on patents and that's where it is right now.
I'm getting chills down my back.
Yeah.
I'm going to do something different than a typical panel. We're going to focus on Mike for like 8 minutes, and then we'll go to the next person and next person. So like if you have questions, because we have a good tight community here, please raise your hand and ask questions, and I'll repeat the question. So FYI, yeah. Okay. Biggest learning that you've had during this over the last 18 months, like what would you say to an entrepreneur that's thinking of tokenizing or using tokens right now? It's kind of scary. US market is a little bit uncertain. Like, what's your best advice?
Ask forgiveness, not permission, right? That's a classic. Just go do it. If you get in trouble, okay, sorry. That's kind of how I operate.
If you get in trouble doing the right thing, you know you're doing the right thing.
Right.
Stop you, that's a difference.
Well, even with just moving, just take the moving business. I did a move one day. A buddy, I was being sued for another startup at the time. And I got sued by Craigslist back in 2012. But I was digging ditches, and the guy I was digging ditches with was like, hey, do you want to do a move tomorrow? You got a call. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then that day we moved the guy. We made a ton of money. And he was like, let's start a moving business. So I went home that day, made the domain, did all that. And then we started operating. And then we got a letter from the state saying, you're not a moving company. And so we just used those revenues that we were making to go ahead and get legit, right? And they were okay with that. So it's like, you have to start somewhere. Don't just go do it, right? Just go do it.
So the regulators told you to stop, but you had a conversation with the regulators, and they said if you get legit, we're okay with it.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing that Uber fought, the UTC, Washington State Utilities and Transportation Commission. It's a criminal organization down in Olympia. Yeah, and I mean, we started in October, and we were fully licensed, bonded, and approved by the UTC by December. So it's easy to do, but yeah.
So I'm curious, Mike.
Yeah.
Come. Wait.
What was a common misconception you got when you're talking to people about what you're doing and it's on blockchain and crypto and they give you this blank stare? What would be a common misconception that they'd have, and then how would you correct that?
About blockchain? Mm-hmm. Well, the people that wanted the token, I mean, you got to be deep into crypto to be on Clever Chain, right? Nobody knows about that. So most of the people that were invested in Clever had already been burned. You know, they had been in crypto long enough to know, like, well, okay, we understand what Mike's doing. Not only that, I showed them, like I said, I hooked a truck up that I owned free and clear already to show them, like, look, there's already revenue here. Like, who wants to buy a truck with me? And of course, it depends on how the moving company does, right? Sometimes the moving company's slow, and sometimes it's really fast. So like summer, people are making money hand over fist. And so we're just shy of 50% ROI after a year and a half. So like the people that own this truck in another year or so will just be in profit. So,
Yeah. So you're actually jumping into my question.
Okay.
This is the question everybody here wants to know.
Yeah.
Are the numbers.
Right.
So to whatever degree you're comfortable answering, how much did you raise during the first token launch? Like, how much is a truck? How much does it cost? How long does it take to get your return on investment on a truck? Like, why is not every single truck out there being tokenized today?
Well, they should be. Well, here's the great thing about trucks. Go look at the moving companies that are 100 years old. Hanson Brother Moving, Beacons Moving. Look at their trucks. They're all from the 70s. They generate the same amount of revenue as a 2025 truck. So I raised, it was 28,000 and some change. And so I bought a used truck that I knew was for sale for a long time. And then, paid for parking for a couple years with the rest of that. And so, yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. One more question.
Just curious, can you or is there someone out there using this similar model for private flights, small jets?
We included all craft in the patent. So whether it's planes or boats or anything like that, because I thought, well, what other vehicle would use this? So if someone is, that's great, especially if I were to get the patent. And I would hope people are using it for,
Cool. Thanks.
for airplanes too. Yeah.
It's amazing. If you come up with more questions, we'll do one big Q&A at the end, but we're going to move on to the next speaker. That's an amazing story, Mike. And if you have questions or ideas that you want to rip off Mike, I think he's the expert on this. Next up, we have Scott Olson. Scott, would you please give your background history and how did you get into what you're doing and what are you doing right now with crypto?
Yeah, so I started out in corporate America. I worked at Microsoft across the pond, if you will, at the game studio. So I worked on Halo, Forza Racing at Turn 10. I loved it. It was a lot of fun. And then I started getting into the HoloLens, which they were kind of the first kind of movers against augmented reality, and had a great time. I didn't really plan on leaving. Microsoft's a stable job, as many of us had attest to how they got into crypto. They kind of came from a kind of a traditional position. And it wasn't until I met a buddy of mine who worked at the Walt Disney named Joe Roats, which shout out to Joe Roats, if you know who he is, from Dragon Chain. Disney was building out, at the time, was a proof of concept of a hybrid blockchain. He got a chance to explain to me. I was more excited about the infrastructure and the actual smart contract side of things. I knew about Bitcoin. This was in 2015. I wish I would have bought in Bitcoin at the time, but I didn't. Yeah, I know, sad day. And then, but I really came to appreciate the decentralization and the nature of what infra and tooling could do to build applications on top of something where I'm at Microsoft, which is very centralized. It made sense to me. So me and a buddy of mine, we actually left our corporate jobs. We started our own company called Fit Consulting. And this was about 2017 during the crazy ICO boom, which I'm sure many of you remember that. We helped incubate and basically took on companies that are like, hey, how can we put our, whatever our product is and tokenize that and do a pre-sale? And it was kind of the wild, wild west. I never forgot the first project we helped incubate was an art, it's called Look Lateral. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but they had like their Look tokens. Essentially, it's the verify on chain, your paintings and stuff like that. Terrible idea, but they raised like stupid money. And I remember sitting in the room watching all of the ETH and Bitcoin come on in for the pre-sale. And I just were thinking to myself, like, I was used to angels investors and VCs. This was new to me, of getting just randos just dropping their money and then converting it to crypto. And then these CTOs and co-founders that are like 18, 19 years old with a white paper, raising more money than I ever saw before. So that rocked my world. But anyways, long story short, we started building out a good portfolio. Joe Lubin, co-founder of Consensus, called us and found out what we were doing. He's like, hey, I got this cool two tools, MetaMask tool and Truffle. You guys interested in kind of, can I acquire you guys and help you guys grow the brand and build that out? And so we said, all right, let's do it. I didn't know MetaMask at the time. And then same with Truffle. It was a smart contract development framework kit. But we pursued that. We grew that. It was super exciting. Early days, this pre-swaps, early days of MetaMask. Consensus was still called the Mesh. which were you're doing more. We were more or less like incubating companies like Gitcoin. You know, I'm sure many of you heard about them, and many others. And so it was an exciting kind of era where it was more of a newfound kind of exposure to what could be built on top of blockchain. And then once we grew Truffle, we spun out and we kind of pursued our own path. Grew that, and then we were able to exit that, which was super exciting. And then I went back to Consensus, which converted into Consensus Software Incorporated, which is Truffle, MetaMask, Diligence, and then Infura, which is like again, infrastructure for Ethereum. And then at that point, I left, and then decided to pursue non-Ethereum EVM chains because I never knew what was out there besides EVM. So I looked at Solana and Cardano and some of these other ones, and I ended up going to Algorand, believe it or not. I never thought I would do that.
Wow.
They were building a Python native smart contract development kit, which I thought was intriguing because I'm a big kind of tech nerd. And so I thought, okay, if you can write smart contracts in Python, that's great, because one of our big hindrances is developers, especially in Web 2, they have a problem coming into the Web 3 world because they got to learn Solidity or Cadence for Flow. It's very complex. So if they can stay in their native language, it was very intriguing to me. So I did that. And then since then, I've been just kind of, I have a company now called Conduit that I co-founded, which we're a hardware-based layer 0. So it's a deep end company. We looked at the concept of like, okay, blockchain, we're all about decentralization, but it ends, the buck stops at cloud. We still use core centralized infrastructure. Many developers, chains, validators still use AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. And we thought to ourselves, why are they still using centralized core infrastructure when we're trying to be more decentralized? And we looked at, has anybody decentralized cloud before? And the answer is there's some attempts to it, but no one really got to past the idea of it's not secure enough. And so what we did is we looked into this and we said, okay, we had a bunch of patents we built with the DOD where we are able to take hardware and then decentralize it into a mesh network. And then what we can create is NIST and FIPS rated hardware that enables people to create this kind of extension of Kubernetes that allows us to create this idea where you can use the same thing that you were to use AWS or Azure if you wanted like S3 buckets or anything that you would need for a developer. You can have the same instance, but now it's completely secure and it's decentralized. And then you're also mining, so you're able to make. So our algorithm is proof of economic activity.
Proof of economic activity?
So it's a proof of work base, but the idea is we model after GDP. So the whole idea is the more economic transactions you have within a network, which is how GDP works, economic turns.
Yeah.
I give you money, and then you get that money, and you go buy something, and then that person goes and uses that money to buy it. That's economic turns.
Yeah.
That's for GDP. We do the same thing. The more you're incentivized to spend in network, and that enables you to mine more, which we call it mutualized economics. And then we built and then finally, the final piece is we built a extension of smart contracts. So we learned that smart contracts are very binary. I was having a conversation with somebody like this. Binary is not the world we live in. It's very fluid. So, and especially in supply chain, like if I can say I'm going to send you a bottle of wine and it'll be here on Sunday, and then I changed my mind, said actually it's delayed, it's going to be here on Tuesday. Well, smart contracts aren't going to know that. So you have to upgrade the smart contract, right, with Solidity. What we've done is we built what we call computable contracts. So it's very dynamic. And it enables us to be able to kind of react in real time using IoT and some of these other things that we do. So we have a lot of really old people that were part of the Web 1 that are working with us, really long hair, that decided they want to help us out. Yeah, kind of like that guy.
We had our conversation.
we talked about this.
I'm looking around the room and just like, with Mike, everyone's jaws are open and we're like trying to compute what? I guess I'm not as technical as you, so I heard DOD, Department of Defense. How do you get a contract with Department of Defense as like a, kind of edge emerging technology, decentralized cloud guy?
There's a couple of people on our team that are part of the DOD in cybersecurity, and they also have one guy actually has 19 dark patents and then 5 regular patents. And so when he found out what we were trying to do, he was all about it because nothing's more decentralized in the military. They were the first to decentralize everything, and now people realize that. And so when we look at what their technology, the devices that they had were essentially meant for battlefield protection. So like if you go out and you're in fight and God forbid you get killed, you have these devices and really you're able to communicate with your comrades. And what you don't want is bad actors, nation state actors, to get that device and then to be able to hack in and find out what you're doing, what your protocols are and whatnot. And so what they did is they created these chips that are built into what's called secure enclaves, which is epoxy encased. And so even if you're trying to microscope it, it would self-implode. It's the most secure device in the world that the military has. And we have that same device, and we put these in these edge nodes. So that way, it's ultra secure. It's literally a quantum proof, hackable, all that good stuff.
Do you have a question?
Yeah.
Then come for you.
One specific question for you, since it seems like I want to get your take on it. How will AI and blockchain blend into small business operations? Any examples that you're already seeing?
Yeah, great question. I love AI inference. I'm very scared about the amount of data we're giving AI right now, especially when it's connected to the AWSs of the world, right? And so we believe AI at the edge is like hand in glove. If you can move AI to the edge, meaning that you can have your own devices that can basically give you the same concept of what you want for, because we love the agentic world is inevitably going to happen. And so, but the idea is you should have data sovereignty and data ownership. You should be able to control what you feed into your AI, because AI is meant to help us. We love that. I met a guy who at Eat Denver who was creating basically a firewall for AI robots, because the idea is like AI robots are going to be able to scan you and look at you, and the concern is they're going to see what I wear, all that, like, you know, my hat, like Nike or something like that, and it's going to go and sell that off to, you know, it's basically Web 2 all over again. And so if we can have AI to be able to prevent us from being able to do that, and you can choose whether or not you want to have that instance of the robot in the case, or whatever you're giving the AI for the inference to be able to learn about you, bank account information and stuff, you want to be able to control that data. And so it should be all in your domain, as opposed to, well, it's all on somebody's server. And that's quite frightening, to say the least. I think many of us can agree to that.
Amazing. Daniel.
All right, I'm back with another question, everyone. Firstly, I love the history. As you're going down memory lane, I remember using Truffle back in 2016.
Oh, let's go.
So it was
Yeah,
so this was a nostalgia trip for me. Question, and these are some hurdles that I've kind of stumbled on myself over the years. Like I think everyone here, when you get into crypto, you like the ethos of decentralization. You see the long-term value of decentralization. That's kind of what brings you in. But building a sustainable business where people pay for decentralization is very, very hard, right? And I think if kind of you've been around for a while, you start making trade-offs. It's like, how decentralized do we want to be on day one versus how decentralized do we want to be on day 100? And I was wondering if you can speak to that, like as you've been building businesses and making trade-offs, and kind of where you see the next 1 year and 5 years looking like.
No, great question, because Conduit is infra. So we have companies that build on top of us, including L1s that are on top of us. Basically, we secure the architecture layer. The idea, we had the same thing. Not everybody wants decentralized. Some people want private, some people want public. So we give them that ability. We decided we're not going to go and just say, preach decentralization, because everybody's been doing that. And the adoption curve has not been very positive, right? I think all of crypto is $3.2 trillion in total GDP. Just supply chain and value chain alone is $320 trillion. That's a big beast that has yet to come over to blockchain, because they don't trust it. If you trust something, you'll move value because you believe it's secure. And we claim blockchain is secure, and we push decentralization, but legacy systems, people working with legacy code, they're not going to just immediately adopt that. They want to know, can I use existing infra and my tools that I'm comfortable with, and choose what I want to do? I want to maybe put some data into decentralization, right? I want some in public. I'm fine with that. And I want some in private cloud, right? You got to have an eclectic analogy in terms of giving them offerings. So we've done that, and it's softened the barrier, because if I've stepped it up and just kept it completely decentralization, then there's a lot of pushback, as you can probably imagine.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then one last question from another OG, Matt Case.
You mentioned my love language.
Thank you.
Mining.
Mining.
Yes. So just thank you. Just curious, is this more like GPU mining or traditional Bitcoin mining? It's what my background is, so I'm just concerned about or curious about is it GPU mining, and then also about power and deep in, because I love the deep in sector, and talk about the power requirements for whatever you're working with. Great
question, because if you remember the GPUs and what your ASIC machines, the amount of energy it converted, you look at your bill and you're like, good God, that's expensive for the energy you have to use. So ours is less than 5 watts, less than a light bulb. Because again, we can reserve all that compute that never was meant for what you would see in Bitcoin. That compute goes towards the network, and that enables the idea of powering the Conduit network. So we definitely looked into that, because we knew that would be a big hurdle. And the other thing is, when it's a simple transaction. It's like a coffee shop can put a miner in there, and then they can run through all of their economic activity, all their transactions they do, all the sales they do. And as they do that, they're mining on the same, because the hardware device is able to do that. It's a very simplistic approach. Proof of work is great, but we also don't want to expend the amount of energy that you're going to use, because that's what we're used to in Bitcoin. You're solving for a mathematical complex problem. Ours is just simply, do you have a business? Are you able to run economic activity? Great. If you can do that, you are mining. And it's only going to cost less than a light bulb to keep on, right? Because we realize it's crazy.
One
valuable.
last follow-up question. The DeepIn sector, I'm totally enamored with it. Where do you think the biggest growth comes from DeepIn in 2026?
I think it's on mobile telecommunications, like Helium's doing a
Helium.
phenomenal job. They were on Deep End Day. We hosted that across the mall. Yeah,
Voss, right?
yeah, Vossers. Yeah, there you go. All right, I'm done talking.
All right, major kudos to you. And you have more questions. We'll have another chance at the end once I'll process this because it's a lot of information I know. Third use case, I want to say Jonathan Blanco has been around for quite some time, as you know, OG. And I asked him lots of questions before this, but we all know Jonathan Blanco, but I think we should all just give him a chance to re-explain, what does he do? How did he get into the space? What does NFTs do? And then I have more questions for you because, why not? And then please think of questions that you want to ask him too. I'll take 2 or 3, and then we'll go into open Q&A.
Thank you. Yeah, we had a fun conversation about we should have that other conversation we had, but maybe one day. No, just kidding. Yeah, so my name is Jonathan G. Blanco. I got into crypto interested-wise personally in 2016. I was actually very interested in Ethereum, and I was very interested in ICOs. So I didn't participate in ICOs, but the whole concept of that, I'll be honest, that's what grabbed my attention to blockchain and crypto, because I had been starting companies and founding companies, and I was like, oh wait, there's this way to raise magic internet money, and I can start a business and so forth. And so luckily in researching that for my sake, we didn't do that with my company. But the other thing that got me into it actually was I have always had this idea because my background is in retail technology. So I've had physical stores. My parents had a store when I was a kid. I led an innovation group at a big box retailer. I've done social commerce back when people didn't even know what social commerce was. Back in 2013, we would talk to brands about how they should be selling on social, and they're like, what? And so anyways, I had this idea back in 2016 around what I call a human affiliate model. And so, if someone is wearing a jacket that I like, and I'm like, hey, Mark, I like your jacket, and I decide to purchase that jacket, I thought Mark should get rewarded and compensated for that. Ooh. So similar to like how an affiliate model works online, right? If I have a blog and I have a link and then you click on that and you purchase it, that's how that flows. So anyways, I was like, okay, I wonder if blockchain can solve for this. So back then, I was a co-founder in a company where we were doing loyalty points as crypto. And we would talk to these brands and we'd say like, hey, there's this really interesting opportunity for you to have your own loyalty point as a cryptocurrency. We built a Shopify integration. We had about 600 brands using it. But the funny thing that I learned is the brands that we signed up really didn't understand what they were doing. They were just smaller brands that were like, hey, we'll take any opportunity to get new customers and so they were very exploratory. But what we learned was they weren't necessarily the right customers for what we were doing. That was when Bitcoin was running up to 20K and then crashed down to 3K. And so we made a lot of mistakes outside of that, but that definitely didn't help. And in doing so, what was interesting is that towards the end of that is when stable coins really started to take off. And I was like, oh shit, like we should be a stable coin. We actually don't need to be a fluctuating coin. We need to be a stable coin. And sure enough, we ended up winding the company down. And this is also when CryptoKitties had come out, like roughly around 2017. And so that's when I started learning about NFTs, and I was like, well, wait a second. Actually, NFTs make a lot of sense in commerce and in brands. And so I had that idea in this was more like 2018 that I was thinking about that. And I remember I was working when that company shut down. I created a deck for a new idea that I had, and I have a slide that literally had a crypto kitty on it, and then it had a picture of a loyalty point card. And I was like, and what I was trying to articulate when I was talking to investors is like, hey, you see this thing for a cat that's like this cool little fun toy thing? Well, what it really would work well is in loyalty. And everybody thought I was stupid when I was saying this back then. So, flash forward through the pandemic and, I'm working on something else. And I start to notice that brands are paying attention to NFTs. And this is, mind you, before Bored Apes, kind of as CryptoPunk started to get a resurgence, but before Bored Apes. And I just decided to put up a website, I had my TF Labs website and I put up a page and I said, NFT advisory for brands. somehow I got into some guy's blog about like top NFT agencies. And I had brands like Pepsi and Volkswagen and Burger King and Kiss Beauty and some of the biggest brands in the world just cold reach out to me. And so we had a lot of conversations back then. And what I told them was like, hey, the way this works is you have a digital twin of a physical product for authenticity, and you can use it as a loyalty point mechanic. And we got a lot of great traction. Brands were like, this is awesome. Yeah, let's do it. And so we started moving forward. And then Bored Apes comes out. And then you start seeing all these NFTs really tick. And the conversation completely changes with every single brand we're talking to the point that we had 2 or 3 brands say, we want to be the next Bored Apes. And I would say, you're not going to do that. Like, you can't, 1, replicate that in time. 2, like, that's not how your model works. And 3, like, you're turning your product that's based off of like a community and this like a cultural thing to a speculative asset, and that's just not going to work well for you. A couple of them ended up doing it, and it went horribly wrong for them. And as much as we'd love to say, I told you so, we lost that business, but we refused to do those types of deals, and we knew we could, but it just wasn't the model that we were looking to do. So what was funny is during that time, when we were trying to raise capital, and we had call your traditional investors would say like, hey, like, we just don't like this blockchain crypto stuff. And then blockchain investors would say, you know, if you were doing this for the Bored Apes style, we'd totally invest. And I would say, like, you know, at the time I was like, hey, like, I don't think that's going to work, and this is why. And I kind of was a little bit arrogant about it. And so every once in a while I'm like, you know, should I have just said that we would do it and not done it? But what was crazy is there's actually like 2 or 3 companies that raised between $25 to $50 million that were doing a version of what we did, but they were focusing basically creating like an OpenSea equivalent for brands, which if anybody here understands commerce, the last thing that any brand wants to do is say, hey, welcome to my website. Now go to this third-party website to transact. Like, brands want to own the communication channel, and they want to own the customer. So we were talking to one big investor, and I don't want to say that they were deciding between us and someone else, but we knew that they were talking to someone else, and that's what we said. Like, hey, that's not going to work because that's not how the brand, you know, consumer relationship works. Sure enough, that company went under. Anyway, so to tie a bow to all this is we've spent, 4 or 5 years basically predicting a human behavior and telling people how the world was going to be and having everybody tell us that we were wrong. And even brands tell us, like, you know, I don't understand like why we would do this. To now, if you go to Europe, the European Union has a mandate by 2027 that you have to have a digital product passport. And what a digital product passport is, it's not necessarily blockchain related, but it is better on blockchain, is you have to have a digital record of every single physical product that's out there. And it's intended to help prevent, to understand the life cycle of the product, help prevent counterfeit goods, and the CO2 emissions and these sort of things. So the best way to do that, in our opinion, is you create a tokenized digital twin of that item. You pair the physical to the digital by having the NFC, QR, or RFID uniquely linked to the token. And now you have a unique pairing one-to-one. And if you do that, it starts to unlock a lot of interesting commerce behavior that people talk about. When you hear about people talking about things like how AI and commerce should work or how these different things should work, if you don't have a source of truth around the data, all that stuff stops mattering. So that's why it's really important to create these digital twins, in our opinion. And we see this as not only just for brands and products, but actually all content will have a tokenized digital equivalent.
Amen.
Well said.
Amen. Yeah, we're gonna jump to audience questions, but you answered the question. I was like, and so after all these years, because you've been at this idea for quite some time, you still believe in it, and then you were like, the European Union, blah blah blah, digital twin. This is the future, right? That's what you're saying.
100%. 100%. It's we have been predicting this behavior with brands and consumers for a really long time, and so when the EU came out with this mandate a few years ago, we're like, that's exactly what we're doing. What's interesting enough is if you still talk to brands here in the U.S., most aren't even thinking about this just yet. Brands traditionally operate in the house is on fire type mode. So they'll work on like whatever's most important right now. It's hard for most brands to be very innovative, like future looking. But this is a problem currently. Counterfeit goods is a $3 trillion industry, so it's something that needs to be solved.
Very big number. All right, first up from the audience, Matt Case again.
So, NFTs. I know you've been at this for a long time. And since Bored Apes, since 2021, et cetera, it seems obviously with the market, the way things have gone, NFTs probably might have a bad stigma attached to them now, especially with brands. How do you circumnavigate that? And then also talk to me about the non-sexy NFTs, because I really think there's so much potential in that side of the world that a lot of people are missing. And talk to me about those opportunities that you see with the non-sexy NFTs. Thank you.
Yeah, you might remember one of my quotes is "Boring NFTs will rule the world," and the reason I like to say that is because it doesn't matter what an NFT is. It's a digital wrapper around a content file, right? And if you think about what a content file is, it's not just an image, it's all the metadata behind that. So that content file at the end of the day is just a representation of something. So RWAs, or tokenized real world assets in the financial sector, has really taken off right now. And all that is a digital wrapper around a financial instrument or a financial tool. So what we're talking about is applying that same technology to all goods and products and content out there. If you go to ChatGPT or Gemini or any AI tool right now, you can say, hey, I want to create a luxury handbag in the style of Louis Vuitton, and it'll look identical. What do you think that learned off of? Clearly, it learned off of scraped, unverified, unvalidated, unpermissioned data, right? All these AI models are learning off unpermissioned, unvalidated data. So that's a huge problem for brand IP holders. That's a huge problem for content IP holders. And so we very much believe in a world where if the IP holder can tokenize the asset, now they are claiming and saying like, hey, we're saying that this is the real thing. This is what we're going to allow people to learn off of. And I can get a lot nerdier a little bit later for anybody who wants to keep talking about this. But if you're familiar with X402 payments or the protocol, so that's a super, very, very interesting internet protocol that's basically micro-fractional payment structures. If you ever seen the movie Office Space, where they're stealing fractions of a penny, right? That's not X402 payments, but to kind of give you an idea of how this works. So the reason why that's very interesting is if you apply that to permission models or say things like, hey, we're going to reward people or allow people access to it, the X402 payment becomes pretty interesting in that front.
Okay, last question.
Hello, I'm Michael Fitzgerald. Probably some of you know me. First thing I want to do is just shout out you directly, Jonathan, and say thank you very much for helping me earlier this year during Seattle AI Week. You were a huge help, and I really appreciate that. And my question is not really a question; it's more of a prompt, especially in this day of AI. I just want you to kind of have the opportunity to share a little bit about your experience in Paris.
Oh, in Paris? Oh, yeah. I mean, when I was in Paris recently, that was super interesting because clearly a lot of the biggest European brands are based in Paris or, call it France and Italy. Big luxury brands out there. What was really awesome about that trip is, I had my booth there, and I didn't say the word NFT, and I didn't say the word digital product passport. But what I said is like, hey, we create, digital twins for loyalty, engagement, authenticity. And we had some of the largest brands in the world stop at our booth, say like, oh, this is digital product passport. We need to talk to you. And so it was actually a completely different conversation than I have here in the US, and also very encouraging for us. So we are focusing a little bit more time in the European market at right now. But mind you, it's a global economy. It's, commerce and fashion and apparel is global. Any brand that's US based very likely has a European presence, or if not, wants to have a European presence. So, they're going to have to comply with those things as well.
All right, we're kind of at time. What do you think? Should we go for the predictions, or should we wrap it?
Devin's doing something.
I just had a question. Did you know that XO402 has been around since 1991?
Yeah, it's like an.
So they've been trying to make this work.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
19 what?
And real quick, Swift just changed to blockchain interoperable mechanisms, which has been 50 years.
Yeah, so Devin said, because I was talking about X402 payments, he's like, hey, did you know it's been around since 1991? I was like, and I was about to say yes, because it's an original internet protocol, right? So, yeah. Yeah, it's finally a use case for it, I guess, or. Yeah.
All right, to close it out, maybe piece of advice that you would give to entrepreneurs, 30 seconds or less, as they head into 2026 and want to work with crypto. Go, Jonathan, first.
I think my biggest advice is don't actually worry about the crypto side of it. Worry about the business model side. Yeah. You were talking about ICOs back in the day. I actually remember there was a tow truck coin. And I always use this example, and it was basically like the ICO was like that you would buy these tow truck coins so that if you ever, broke your car down, you could have that. And I was like, that's so crazy, because like how often does your car break down that you need this? But I think if you really just focus on whatever the business model is, that's the only thing that matters. And then does crypto or blockchain play into that?
You said that advice at Deep In Day, and you got like 100,000 views on that, so it was great. I'd say, so Web3 builds dApps, Web2 builds companies. Let's build companies on Web3. Focus on building a company and looking at things like P&L statements, the dirty R word that Web3 doesn't like, which is revenue, right? Look at the way in which you want to build and scale a company, and don't think about even the blockchain and the negative connotations with it and the crypto. Put that aside, because again, Web2 doesn't care about that stuff. They want to see, what is your monetization model? What's your business model? Like what Jonathan was saying, he's spot on. And if you can focus on that, again, when you think about like Stripe or you think about Venmo, nobody cares about the back end and what's built on top of it. They know it works. And so you want to really focus on the UX, the go-to-market, product market fit. And if you could do that right, then you can achieve adoption. And then it just so happens to be on a blockchain, right? That should be the back end. That should be like a secondary conversation. If you lead with blockchain, you're going to lose people.
Be practical. And Mike.
Just never give up. Just keep going. Like when I got sued by Craigslist, it was like the best education I got. And, a couple years later, I was suing the Seahawks. So, it comes full circle.
Wow.
Yeah, I feel like that you're not officially a founder until you get a letter from a lawyer representing a very big company. We got a letter recently from one of the largest companies in the entire world asking us not to use their trademark, which we weren't, by the way, and they backed off. But it's crazy when that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah, I got my trademark past the Gazette, so Craigslist was in trouble. And they wanted my mark.
We basically just said a word that is their name, but it's also a word familiar in all of lexicon. Yeah. And so, and we're like, yeah.
Yeah, so Startup 101, fundamentals, business models, and be practical. Use blockchain and crypto to amplify a network effect already in place. So,
and get sued.
And get sued for the learning of hard knocks. Yeah.
Right.
I want to take a picture with everybody for our Staying with Crypto photo because, that's one of the things they really like. And then let's party, drink up. Please finish all the food and drinks so that we don't have to carry it around or anything. Thank you.
Woo!